With us now, 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty and CBS News analyst Jack Ford. Welcome.
Charlie.
So what's going on?
That's a very,
as I said earlier.
Very good question. Here's the thing you have to keep in mind is that, if you try cases for a living, if you chronicle cases for a living, one of the first things you realize is you have no clue what's going on in a juror's mind. You have no clue whether that, we talked about a juror smiling at somebody. First murder case I ever prosecuted. From the very beginning, I've got the foreman, he's nodding at me, he's smiling at me, he wouldn't even look at the defense attorney. I'm thinking, this guy is
he's
with
in my
me.
Pocket.
Yeah, turns out they go in and the jury was out for 8 days. From the very first moment, he says, I'm voting against the prosecution. So what I learned is he liked me, he just didn't like my case.
And this
you just really don't, you can't read into their gestures and say definitively this is what this means.
And it's not really unusual for a federal corruption case to go this long. Blagojevich's, he had 2 trials. The first one went 14 days and there was a mistrial. The next one went 10 days of deliberation. So you really can't tell. The one thing, though, I think is clear is the defense attorneys did tell the jury, please do not look at our client. He may be a bad husband, but he didn't commit any crimes. And I think, obviously, they didn't go right back in and convict him. So they're really taking a look at the evidence.
And jurors, I think, learned high-profile cases from the O.J. Simpson case. Remember, we all covered the O.J. Simpson trial. And the great criticism of the jury, a lot of people disagree with the verdict, but the great criticism was it was a 9-month trial. How can you decide that in 3 hours? So I think you see jurors now working very hard, especially high-profile, saying, we're going to take our time. Whatever time is necessary, we're going to take our time.
There is the question, though, of these alternate jurors.
Yeah.
And showing up in the same outfits 2 days in a row. That seems odd.
They are totally bored. You realize they are not included in any of the deliberations. They're sitting around day after day. They could get called in if you lost a juror, so they have to stay there. Can you imagine? So they're sitting around going, okay, what are we going to do tomorrow? Let's all wear yellow. Let's all wear red. I mean, I know it sounds... But what else you're going to do? They're there all day. It did strike me also that one of the things that jurors really have to deal with in this case is here we have the U.S. government not really agreeing on whether these were illegal campaign contributions. You had the Federal Election Commission auditor saying, no, these were not illegal. They don't even have to be listed on the financial statements. But you have the Justice Department saying they do. So what are you expecting from 12 jurors to be able to look at this very complex law?
So that's what's taken so much time.
Well, they have, interestingly, they don't have to figure out the facts in this case. Everybody kind of knows what the facts are. They have to figure, do these facts fit within the parameters of what the prosecution says the law is? And as Erin said, you're not even getting agreement amongst federal authorities here, which is a recipe. And again, you don't know what jurors are going to do. They could take 9. It could be that there's one person that they've got to convince. But when you have that kind of situation, that could also be a recipe for a hung jury because, people are looking at this saying, if they don't agree, how can we possibly agree?
Then is a hung jury a victory for John Edwards?
Always for the defense. If you're a defense attorney, your mantra is anything but a conviction. Because you know what? If this jury hangs, you sit down as his attorney and you say, why do we have to do this again? You guys gave it your best shot. It didn't work. You want to find out what the numbers were. How many jurors were leaning towards conviction, how many leaning towards acquittal. But always better for a defense than the prosecution. Although the flip side is if you have to try it another time, as a prosecutor, I always felt that it was better for me to retry a case because you knew exactly what the roadmap was. You knew exactly what the defense was going to do, and you sort of tailored your case the second time around to do it. So everybody gets a little bit of something if they end up hung.
And that happened in the Blagojevich case. That's exactly what happened. They had fewer counts, and they did convict him on 17 counts. He had 23 the first time around.
We are not done talking about it yet. That's the one thing we know for sure. Erin and Jack, thanks very much.